Hi everyone, my name is Justin, aka Ghost Reader, and today I am going to be doing my January wrap up. Now, this is a bit late because I've shot this video 2 times before, but always found something wrong with it. And then the Super Bowl happened, and I was like, "Ah, we did it! Finally! Finally! Ah! Ah!" So I'm really glad that my team won, but I took a weekend off, and after I took that weekend off, from editing videos and shooting videos, my laptop went kaput. So I had to take that in the Geek Squad to get it fixed. And now, finally, my computer's fixed. I can shoot this video, edit it, and get it up. So I read a lot of good books in January. So let's go ahead and jump right on in and talk about some of those books. So the first book that I read was Punishment by Scott J. Holliday. This book basically follows a police detective as he tries to stop a serial killer who has been leaving clues for the detectives at each of his crime scenes. Now, these clues are in the form of poems, which the detectives can hear when they go into the minds of the victims through the use of this machine that is now available to law enforcement to go into the minds of people and basically view their memories. Now, this machine has an effect on the user in that you not only feel the pain you not only experience the memory, but you also feel the pain and emotions that go along with that memory. And since each of these victims were killed in terrible ways, he basically feels terrible pain and the fear that goes along with that. So while he's dealing with that, the machine also kind of leaves an imprint of that person on you. So he begins hearing the people. I think there's about, I forget how many victims there were in total, but the number, all of those victims that he goes into the minds of are basically kind of left as like ghosts in his head, and he hears them as he's investigating the murders. So this book was really a really good mystery novel. Um, the author did a really good job with the protagonist building the world around the machine, and that like not only law enforcement has it, but regular people use it illegally, basically to experience the memories of celebrities, of people that they know, or just random people, just memory experiences that they wouldn't have otherwise. And they kind of in a way become junkies, so they become addicted to this machine and going to like view these memories. And the detective also has the danger of that happening to him too. So there's this news reporter that's constantly following him around to see like how he's doing, because he wants like this expose on how this machine is affecting the police officers. So this was a really well written book. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The second book that I read in the month of January was The Storm Before the Storm, The Beginning of the End of the Roman Republic by Mike Duncan. This book chronicles Roman politics from the rise of the Gracchi brothers to the coming of Sulla. And basically it talks about the craziness that was Roman politics at that time. So this all starts in this book with one of the Gracchi brothers proposing a land reform bill that would have given land to the poor, but it would have taken away land from wealthy owners, which it wasn't their land in the first place. It was actually the government's land, but they were kind of squatting on it. But that didn't matter to them. They didn't want to give it away, and basically it ended up with that Gracchi brother being clubbed to death with a bench chair in the Senate, and it just goes basically downhill from there. There's a bunch of intrigue and politicking and people basically breaking tradition and doing things that had never been done before in Roman politics, like the killing of a tribune, which was the Gracchi brother was serving as consul for 7 times when they weren't supposed to do that. That was Marius, who introduced who's famous in Roman history for introducing reforms to the army, and it just became a free for all. If you were a Roman politician at this time, there was a good chance that you may not survive, depending on which side of the aisle you were essentially on. So basically, this was a great book. Mike Duncan does a really good job at keeping history interesting, and it actually would probably be really hard to do with this era of Roman politics, with all the backstabbing and politicking that's going on. But he did a really good job, and I give this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars. My next read for the month of January was Royal City, that was written and illustrated by Jeff Lemire. So basically, Royal City is about a family who comes together, kind of, when their father dies, and basically they're dealing with their own problems while also trying to come to terms with the fact that they aren't really where they wanted to be in life. And in the story, the younger brother, who's died years ago in 1993, appears to each one of them as a ghost. And in a way, it's kind of each of in a way, the way he appears is how they want him to appear. The idealized version of what they thought Tommy would be if he was still alive. And in a way, that kind of mirrors how they want their own lives to be. They want this idealized version, but at the same time, their life isn't like that. Their marriages are not at where they need to be. Some aren't living up to their potential. So it's a really good read. I give it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I'm definitely looking forward to the second volume, which is the single issues for it are coming out now, and at some point it'll be finished. So I really like Jeff Lemire's stuff so far, and I've heard really good things about him, so I'm probably going to pick up some other work by him as well. So the fourth book that I read in the month of January was Milky Honey by Rupi Kaur. It is a book of poetry that focuses on pain and hurt from abuse in relationships. And I initially really liked this book, but over time, my opinion of it, like over the month, my opinion of it kind of went down. And the reason why is it's while the themes are good, and there's nothing really wrong with. I felt there was nothing wrong with how she like talked about it. The structure was a bit weird, where like there would be like 15 words on the page, and then the next page would be another 15 words. And if you have a book copy, it just seems like a waste of paper. At times, the poetry didn't seem like poetry; it seemed like prose. And really, I mean, while some of the stuff was quite deep, the other stuff was just it wasn't really. They didn't really grab you, and really it wasn't earth shattering. So this read wasn't a great read. It wasn't a terrible read. So I'll give it a 3 out of 5 star. The fifth book that I read this month was The Demon in the Trees by Ben Sanders, who is actually also a booktuber here on BookTube. So I will leave a link down in the description below to his channel. You may already know him if you have been doing or have been looking at the videos for StrikeBackVideoathon. He is one of the creators of that community event. So basically, The Demon in the Trees in this book, the protagonist is a young detective. He's the youngest ever to hold the position in his in his small town in Maine, and the DA's daughter goes missing, and the events surrounding the DA's daughter going missing seems to suggest there's a supernatural source to what's going on. So this book was good. It was a good debut novel. At times, I felt there could have been a bit more tension. It was a bit slow at times, but I really liked the characters. I really liked the ending and how the supernatural element was handled. That was quite interesting. So I give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Ben Sanders is currently writing another book, which is not like this one. I think it's young adult contemporary. I think, maybe. So so go pester him to finish that book. So the next book that I read last month was The Sculptor by Scott McCloud. I saw a video on the first chapter's channel, which I'll link down in the description below, in which he said that he read The Sculptor and it was an amazing read. So I decided to give it a shot, and I do agree it was a amazing read. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 stars. So basically, the plot of this book is, or of this graphic novel, is that there's a sculptor. He's really down on his luck. He missed out on a big opportunity, or messed up opportunity they had up, and he meets Death. And Death says that he will give him the ability to sculpt anything with his hands, any material, into anything he wants with his hands, in exchange for dying in 200 days. Now, the sculptor jumps at this opportunity to do this, but of course it's not as simple as him just building some stuff and getting a lot of fame. So the story of him going from, of course, starting out with disability and meeting other people along the way, which makes the story really rich, because the people he meets, one character in particular, has a really large impact on him in his life, and he begins to realize that life is more than just the art and what he can do with the art that he does, but it's more about the people in it that give it meaning. And it was just a really great novel. The ending was kind of heartbreaking. I mean, there's, of course, he's going to die at the end because of the deal, but still, the way it was written, um, it was great. And then the author's note at the end added like a whole nother level of awesomeness to the story. It was good. It's 5 out of 5. It is from a mature audience, but absolutely amazing. So I read 2 other books in the month of January, and that was Dune by Frank Herbert and DarkTown by Thomas Mullen. I will leave a card up for my discussion of Dune by Frank Herbert. I did a whole, I think, 10-minute video on my thoughts on that book for January, because I was part of the January event. Basically, we read Dune in the month of January, and at the end we did a video on our thoughts and our basic review of the book. I don't think I gave that a star rating in that book, in that video, so I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars for Dune, and you can see my thoughts on that in that video. And also there for DarkTown, I read that for 24 and 48, which I have been trying to get up for I think the past 2 weekends, and it's just been like a whole bunch of stuff going on. So hopefully I have that up before this video comes out, and I think I will. So I will also have a link in the description below and a card up top, so you guys can see that video. Oh yeah, and I forgot that I didn't give it a star rating in that video either. So I gave DarkTown also a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's a really good read, and so go check out that video to find out more about that. Last but not least, an update on my quarterly read. So my quarterly read, which is The Fortunes of Africa, a 5,000 year history of wealth, greed, and endeavor by Martin Meredith. I have only read 5 chapters, and there are 71. So I have a lot more reading to do if I'm going to finish this by the end of March. So I have to get cracking on this on top of the 6 books that I have lined up for my February TBR. So that's going to be quite an interesting month. Well, February is going to be quite an interesting month for me. So that's it for my wrap up of January. Hopefully I have this up soon, so it won't be too long from the time I film this to the time I put this out, and I can finally get it out and finally wrap up my January. So what did you guys read in January? How were your reads? Please comment in the comment section below. If you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you want to see more content from me, please subscribe. Thank you, and as always, keep reading.